Great games in the evening. Great games at your table. This is Jonathan Albin, and this is NycosRPG. Today we are going to be talking about the state of play. And while this may be an underrated or under-recognized terminology, the state of play is what the players need to have at the beginning of every action sequence, whether that be a turn or a series or a phase or however the game you're playing defines it. The players need to have an understanding of the state of play so they can make decisions about what their characters are doing. State of play is fundamentally the following things, and as I go through these, they are going to be the presentation that the player makes, that the game master makes, that explains the situation before the players make their choices about what's going on. And in particular, NycosRPG follows this pretty specifically, but just to make sure. Fundamentally, your state of play is going to be the who, what, when, where, and maybe even the why of actions in a specific sequence, in a specific turn of a game. It's going to be a description of who is involved, what the situation is, where the action is taking place, when it's taking place as far as timing and sequencing, and then perhaps even the motivation for why those things are happening at this particular time. Now, these descriptions are generally given out as exposition. So the storyteller will basically tell the players, so this is where we are and this is what is going on. And the player's input will merely be a amplification or an addition onto that of what their inputs are going to be. Now, this will also mean that the storyteller needs to provide any particular conditions that are in place for the start of the scene. So, for example, if the terrain they are in is going to be difficult for travel and therefore going to slow them, if they are we're dealing with slippery soil and therefore they have chances of falling, perhaps it's raining and things are wet and therefore difficult to grasp. There's all kinds of conditions that might be in place, but it's to make sure that when you are providing the state of play, you're not only giving the 5 W's, but you're also giving the particular conditions that might be in place. That also means that you'll be able to take into account the particular predetermined actions of players who may have spoken before the turn began, those players that were involved in actions that were not necessarily combat related, but were kind of caught short-sighted or flat-footed, so to speak, in the moment, and therefore have to deal with the actions that they've already started to do. This may also mean that you'll have predetermined actors that have to be in the scene based on either their particular skills or perhaps their positioning within the scene that make them paramount for conclusion. And that also means that the players will get an opportunity after you've stated the current state of play to ask clarifying questions and receive adequate answers to them so that they have the proper information to make decisions. If you're playing in a theater of mind, of course, this will be all done in a virtual environment, but many people do use miniatures, and so this would be the place where the miniatures would be adjusted and any changes that might be taking place in the configuration of the battlefield, so to speak, would occur. And then the players will determine their actions and state their position. And then the game master has a chance to react to that by asking questions for clarity to make sure the player's actions are going on. Because in order for him to decide at the moment of point of resolution what happens in each portion of the scene, he needs to have a really strong handle on the point of resolution from the standpoint of what the players have decided. So it's basically Game Master provides information, stipulates the conditions that are in place, the predetermined actors. The players then respond with clarifying questions, get their answers, and then they state their actions. Then the Game Master responds to that by asking clarifying questions, making final resolution, and then the point of resolution occurs. Now, in NycosRPG, that is fundamentally the point at which all of the simultaneous actions that were determined by the players in advance of that all have happened, and therefore it's going to be the beginning of the next need to restate the state of play. But it's the point of resolution. When it does occur, the process then is going to repeat. So you're going to restate who's involved, where they are, what the conditions they are, any new ones that have been modified by the player actions and the actions of the NPCs or whatever are resolved, and then you're ready to start the next round, and it just repeats over and over and over. The idea of having a state of play that is this concise means that the game master doesn't have to worry about whether or not each player got to put their input in, because you have chosen to specify that the point of resolution won't occur until I've gotten all that information from every player, and therefore the interaction becomes almost automated so that it's a faster response and a faster playthrough. In terms of many games don't actually outline the state of play in such a clear form. They instead talk about setting it up, and then the players go through their turns, and the players go through their turns, and then at the end of the situation, then you resolve it. But having an ongoing state of play means that the scene is going to be more dynamic. The things that are going to be changing and moving and shifting are going to happen in real time, so to speak, in the session, and therefore it'll feel more cinematic. And so this is what the NycosRPG mechanism does, and how you can improve your game is by utilizing this form of state of play resolution, regardless of the game system you're playing. This has been Jonathan Albin's Game Master Soapbox here on NycosRPG, and I will be staying on for a few more minutes in case there's any questions or commentaries from players, but this is the part that I wanted to get recorded and that I was most excited about. So thank you for staying with me. If you like what you're seeing, make sure you like and follow us, subscribe on the YouTube channel if you can, because it doesn't cost anything, and it definitely helps us to get recognition for the channel and what's being done over here, and I'm glad to have you as part of our community. Thanks again. This is Jonathan Albin.